Hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about breaking free from cycles, healing from past traumas, and learning from life's lessons. And this is a very important concept to internalize because life is so very short. We don't want to be running through the same things again and again, right? We have a few karmic lessons to live out in our life, and you kind of want to check them off so you can go on to living the life that you actually want to live instead of being subjected to these, lower vibrational karmic lessons. And I'm sure you've heard the very popular expression, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. And essentially, this is what a lot of us are doing. We have learned certain things about ourselves in these early years of childhood, things that have actually been directly told to us by our primary caregivers, or maybe things that have been more subtly learned, like if you were abandoned as a child, you've learned this lesson about yourself that I will be abandoned. So now as an adult, you're putting yourself in situations where you're going to be abandoned because you're seeking out this validation about these core beliefs that you have about yourself. So obviously we want to break free from these harmful beliefs and maybe try and cultivate beliefs that will be more beneficial to our long-term happiness. So there's two components to this. First, we need to realize the cycles that we've been repeating and the trauma that we've been internalizing and acting out in the world. And then secondly, we need to take action to actually change. So both of these components are quite difficult, but certainly the first step is a lot easier. So the first step is acknowledging what are these cycles that we're stuck in, what is the trauma that we're acting out, and what lesson can we learn from the things that have happened to us. So instead of just wallowing in your trauma and, being like, my life is ruined because of these things that have happened to me, first you need to have this mentality of I can actually learn from what has happened to me and I can move on to bigger and better things and situations that are actually good for me and healthy for me. So going back to these traumatic experiences can almost feel like you're wallowing in it. But, you have to treat it very gently and treat yourself gently in this process because, of course, it is going to be painful to really examine these core deep wounds that you have. But this is essential to getting out of it, right? Because when you're just running on autopilot, these core wounds are still running through your head nonstop. It's just on this lower level. And when you bring them up to the conscious level, at first it feels really painful and almost like why am I thinking about these things? But you need to actually make it conscious or otherwise it's just going to control you unconsciously. So to really examine what are the core things that my parents or caregivers told me about myself, either verbally or kind of just through their actions that I really believed about myself in these early years of my life and have carried on into adulthood very often. So you really need to break this down and this is not something you can just do just by thinking about, okay? This is something you really have to put pen and paper to, put it into words. Otherwise, it's not leaving that kind of subconscious level of feelings and memories, but really putting it down logically, what is it that I believe about myself, and what do these beliefs cause me to do, and what kind of situations am I putting myself in because of these beliefs? So really breaking down those early, beliefs that you had about yourself, and maybe a certain situation as well, of what kind of situations can I put parallels to from things that maybe I've acted out in my life recently and things that maybe correspond to those early traumas, and sort of being able to see the pattern is what will allow you to break it. So if you really think that those things that happened to me as a kid were whatever, and now as an adult, I'm kind of moving on to different problems and they're kind of separate. It's no, you need to understand that these things are very deeply linked. And, don't shoot the messenger here, but those early years of your childhood, these will shape your entire approach to human relationships, your lifelong sexuality, and just how you interact with the world. It's all formed in those early years. And to some degree, being conscious of it can help you change it and, have some agency instead of just things that were directly given to you. But at the same time, you have to understand that, in some level, these beliefs, fantasies, traumas, they will be present for the rest of your life. So it's about learning to live with them and use them productively and, act them out in maybe healthier ways than in, really destructive ways. So when it comes to taking action in order to break these cycles, now that you've become aware of them, it really, again, is this level of conscious choice, right? Because especially if you're really caught up in acting out your traumas, it almost feels like you're watching episodes of a TV show where it's like, you know, this character is being subjected to this situation. And that's how your life feels. It's like, oh my God, how did I get into this situation? What is happening to me? And it's like, this is because you're meant to learn a lesson, right? And part of the lesson is that, okay, I've seen this play out in my life. I've seen this happen to me. Now it's my turn to take action and change this situation. So if you're experiencing the same situation over and over again, it's because you've never taken action. And like, not even the correct action, it's just that you haven't taken an action at all. You're letting it play out the same way it played out in your childhood. So what you need to do is like recognize the situation, like I've mentioned with this level of pattern recognition, is you recognize it and then you take action and you say, this time it's going to be different. So you need to analyze those previous situations of like, what was the same in all those situations? And now how is this one going to be different? So you're now taking action. And this is essentially what life is for. This is what human relationships are for. It's, you know, I mean, not that they're a means to an end, but like, it's to challenge us to grow and like learn from the past and like do healthier things in the future with the people that we welcome into our lives, right? Because it's very easy to get caught up in this feeling of like, my past traumas define me, this is who I am as a person. But it's that recognition that you can open your eyes to a new world and a new way of living simply by shifting your perspective and the way you think about yourself and others. And, you know, if you're thinking, like, I'm a terrible person and I have to live out my traumas over and over, like, that's just what's going to happen to you. If you think about yourself as, like, you know, there's this level of inherent good within me, I can treat people with dignity and respect, and, you know, I can learn from the lessons that these traumas taught me, then you will be able to do that. And really, this capacity is within every person. And so maybe, like, if you want a more concrete example of how this process might work, maybe if you have this, you know, really strong fear of rejection. So maybe you really felt unwanted as a child. And it could have been like your parents directly told you like you were an accident. Or maybe they just made you feel unwanted. And anytime you tried to get their attention or, you know, just like interact with them, it was almost like you're being shunned. And like you really just had this feeling like no one will ever want me. And maybe this translated into, you know, friendship experiences where like in school, you didn't really try and reach out with other kids because you kind of felt like, you know, they wouldn't like me anyway. They would just hate me. I would just be annoying. I would be a burden. So you made yourself small and you kind of like shied away from that. And then, you know, this was something that would have carried into your romantic relationships too. And it, you know, it really presents as this like histrionic sort of like, why are you leaving me? Like, why don't you want me? Like really needy this perspective of looking at things of like, you know, like taking other people's actions as rejection. Where like in that those early childhood years of your life, you know, that was rejection from your primary caregivers, and that is like traumatic and unacceptable and like terrible for a child to experience. But now as an adult, like if someone's behavior comes off to you as rejection, like this is an inaccurate way of looking at it, because now you're trying to like read someone's mind and you're imposing your past traumas onto someone else, and then you're emotionally reacting to the situation that you've set up. And unfortunately, because you've done these things of like being caught up in your delusion of like projecting your past traumas, you're now acting it out again, and the result is going to be the same. Because when you come in with this like really like, you know, needy, like pathetic kind of like, why am I not good enough for you energy, right? That is what will cause you to actually get rejected in the world, because that is not attractive, right? Like confidence is attractive. Feeling secure in yourself is attractive. So you can see in this way how acting out your past traumas will only cause you to repeat them. And it really takes that level of being conscious in order to shift and say like, no, this situation is going to go differently than how it did in the past. Alright, so that's kind of my brief thoughts on the topic. I hope that this was somewhat helpful to you. Please leave a comment if you're thinking about similar things in your life. And on a quick personal aside, it's been a while since I uploaded a video. There are many factors to that. Okay, life has been a little bit crazy. I mean, you know what they say, autumn is the season of change. Things have been shaking up. I've been learning my karmic lessons. That's all I can say. I've been speedrunning karmic lessons. Like, you know when you're playing Legend of Zelda and you go in a temple and it's like so easy? and then you just walk right out. It's like, oh, I'm done, I guess. Yeah, that's how my karmic lessons have been recently. And then also I got sick for like a month, honestly. I get like really bad tonsil infections, so that I lose my voice and I just can't talk on camera. I just didn't want to like, I've said this before, like, show up sick and just do it sick, but there's just like a certain level of like pleasure for viewers of like, the auditory component is very important in a spoken word talking head video, and if my voice is all cracked and messed up, like, it's just not the vibe. I'm not gonna subject you guys to that. But I've recovered, I'm feeling good now, and I hope to be uploading some more videos in the future. And as always, like, please leave a comment if you have any requests. I'm trying to get more regular with uploading. I do it when I can, but knowing that there's something that you guys who actually watch my videos want to hear from me, that definitely inspires me a little bit more to really put my message out there. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.